Good morning, and welcome to the Live at the Waterhole show. And what a great start to this morning we have. My name is Steph Winterboer. I'm going to be your naturalist for the next 3 hours. And we've got a very, very rare sighting in front of you there. That's a pair of hawk eagle that have decided to go and have a drink and a bath at Africam's Old Donyo Cam up in Kenya, or in Kenya. So with that introduction done, and it's really a bombshell, enjoy this particular scene while it lasts. It's rare to see a pair of African hawk eagles like this, so and in such great detail. They are rather timid eagles, very fierce, fiercely independent, and you can see from their crops that they are also quite full. So what I'm pointing at is if you have a look down their neck, you go down the neck, you'll notice that on their breastbone there's a little protrusion. It's causing the feathers to stick out a little bit, so that's their crop. Birds will bolt food down when they kill it, filling their crops, and then they'll digest it from there little bit by little bit. Now obviously just having a bit of a bath this morning. Wind is blowing quite strongly, and looks quite nice. William, good morning all the way from the UK. Great to hear from you this morning, and I agree with you. What a great start. We never see, well, we saw these, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, very briefly, but they're a rare bird to see, William. And as you quite rightly said, it's something to celebrate. But for the rest of you who were just surprised, well, for some of you who might have been surprised at how William asked me the question, it's a live and an interactive show, this. So what we're seeing here right now is what's happening up in Kenya right now at Africam's Cam feed. And we don't know what's going to happen. That's why I was so excited when you opened the show. I was hoping so much that the birds wouldn't fly away. And it's also interactive. That's how William asked me a question or send through his comment. You are also welcome to send through your questions and comments and literally anything for discussion topic. There goes an oryx in the background. And if you don't know how to do that, you just have to log on to WildEarth's website and register from there. And that'll take you through to ask me a question or send through a question in a comment. And frankly, I'd love to hear from you. These 3 hours with me just speaking to myself are tough. Now, I hear that we've got a few audio gremlins creeping in, and from, at times it might be a bit sketchy with my voice. I apologize for that. We are bringing you a live show from some of the most remote places on Earth. And what happens is sometimes gremlins come in. But anyway, nonetheless, we are going to try and do the best we can today, and I hope that this is a portent of things to come. So rare and exciting sightings today. Okay, so we've got a summary of the weather at the various locations. We've got cameras, and what we're going to do is play that for you now, and then we'll have a quick chat about what to expect through the day. Gosh, we've got a selection of different weather across the continent today. And I see that in some places like Tembe, it's raining today and quite cold. And in other places, in other places it's hot at over 104, 105 degrees Fahrenheit, way into the 40s, which is great actually, because it means that we're going to be getting a different mix of animals throughout the day. And like I said, just before we went into that weather summary, if this pair of African hawk eagles is sort of any thing to go by, we can expect anything on the show today. I, for one, don't know what to expect. I mean, we have a a great idea that the hotter the day becomes at this time of the year, the busier the waterholes become. And so I'm excited about what's going to happen over the rest of the show, at least anyway. So it's quite, what I'm finding intriguing about what we're looking at right now is the fact that these birds are not really drinking, but they're just sitting in the water. And for the life of me, I can't really come up with the reason why. This is a zebra that's coming down there. Okay, so they'll chase the birds out. And that's the end of that. All right, zebra, thank you for doing that. Oh no, the birds are still there. So what we're looking at there are some Patterson's eland and some plain zebra which have come into the mix. The eland are relatively special in that this is the southernmost range of the northernmost subspecies of eland that we get. So Patterson's eland are the ones that occur up in East Africa, north of Tanzania, and they will stretch all the way into sort of the Sudan. But they don't occur south. So we don't see Patterson's eland in Namibia, for instance, and we don't see them in South Africa. We just see them on this particular camera. And then the plain zebra are a lot more common. We find plain zebra throughout East Africa, Southern Africa, and into Namibia. So the zebra that you're looking at, as beautiful as what they are a little bit more common. The African hawk-eagle pair that we're having a look at there is not. These birds occur only roughly every few hundred square miles. You'll have a pair, and gosh, there's an elephant that's just arrived as well. Goodness me. So Africam's Aldonio cam delivering exceptional variety as it has been doing for the last couple of months. To be honest with you, it's one of the most spectacular cameras. Not that any of our other cameras aren't. To be honest with you, we've got so much going on at the different locations. It's crazy. Well, had yesterday, at least anyway, and the day before was even busier. This particular elephant is a bull elephant, but not a particularly big one for this area. This area in Africa is well known for having some of the largest tusked elephant in the world, and Africam Aldonio cam is no stranger to seeing some of these giants out there. I'm hopeful that we'd maybe be able to get to see some of them throughout the course of today or for the rest of the week. It's a great day in South Africa. Today is Heritage Day, so the whole country is celebrating their heritage, and with 11 official languages and cultures. It is a multicultural celebration, which of course is really rich in terms of the experiences that you can have. Everyone's very happy, lots of music and dancing around, and is usually celebrated outdoors around a barbecue. Lisa, who is apparently only 6 years old. So firstly, Lisa, I just want to say welcome to the show, as this is one of your first times to view the show. And secondly, the fact that you're only 6 years old. Gosh, so hello. And secondly, welcome. And thirdly, I 100% agree with you. These animals are lovely. To give you some information, the eland that we're having a look at now, there's a male on the far left-hand side. You can see how much bigger he is. But also look at his forehead. Just above his nose, you'll notice that there's a curly ruff of hair that he has there. And his horns are bigger than the two females on his right-hand side. And he's got a much bigger dewlap, that flap of skin that's underneath his chin, making him look big and impressive. And then this elephant that we're busy having a look at is a bull elephant, a boy. And he will be basically walking around on his own. Sometimes he has some friends with him, sometimes not. And will spend most of his time in peace and solitude. He's walking up to the eland. He's not being a particular bully. He's just bigger than everyone else, and they must make way for him.
to know what the WildEarth team has been busy with lately? Join us on September 24th for a company update town hall. We will update our explorers on the growth and change that we have been experiencing and what more is to come. Watch it live on your nearest device. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
So that bull eland, he's got a bird sitting on his back, and that bird's called an oxpecker. And they are often associated, those birds are often associated with large animals where their job is to comb through the fur and keep wounds clean, and at the same time rid animals of parasites. So things like ticks and mites are then removed by those birds. And in return, the animals get cleaned, but they also get a very vigilant sentry. And a sentry is someone that looks out over the surrounding bush to help give you warning from possible predators or possible threats. And so the animals put up with the slight irritation in return for the protection that it affords. See how long this elephant is going to be staying at this pan. Usually they stick around here for quite some time, to be honest with you. We're looking at about 40 minutes to an hour sometimes, even longer. He's got a lovely peace about him, this particular elephant. I don't know, I just like him. For some reason, I'm just drawn to him. So just a couple of minutes ago, All right. So sorry about that slight breakup there from me. We've got internet problems today where we're sitting. It's part of the whole Heritage Day celebration, I suppose. Just one of those things. So I might come and go from time to time, but we'll get it fixed, no problem.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
When I started looking at this elephant, I was thinking that he was possibly quite young, but I would say that he's probably around 30 to 35 years old, if I were to gather. It's obviously very subjective. So, for those of you out there who feel differently, you are welcome to your opinion without actually having a vet on site and that elephant asleep next to you so that you can check its teeth. We won't really know. But what is quite cool is that he's just got a peace about him. I don't know. It's lovely. In total contrast to the African hawk eagle, which are incredibly fierce birds. They fly around and everything from squirrels to lizards to other birds react to them. They definitely have a presence about them that disrupts the peace and tranquility around waterholes. Really quite an impressive sight. What's lovely about today is that we have these. I mean, these Africam cameras are incredible resolution and detail. Just have a look at that. And in the same picture, we're able to see this flock of doves coming in, as well as the African hawk eagle. So Diane, who's also calling us from the UK today, gosh, we've got lots of our viewers today calling in from the UK, has asked, do large bull elephants lie down to sleep in addition to a greeting this morning? So firstly, hey Diane, how are you? And great to hear from you. And then to answer your questions, absolutely yes. So you do find animals do snooze on their feet, but deep sleep is done lying down. They don't sleep for very long over a given period of time. Animals don't lie down and sleep for as long as what we do or the larger cat species do, like lions, for instance, who will sleep 16 hours a day. They definitely do lie down on their sides. And where possible, what they'll do is they'll lie down on a slight rise, usually on the bank of a river or drainage line or on the side of a termite mound. And what that does is it just help support their bulk a little bit, but also gives them some leverage to get up because an elephant lying down is quite vulnerable, and vulnerable being relative, right? So it's going to take a fairly large pride of lion to subdue an elephant. But there is a vulnerability to sleeping, and definitely for an elephant and something this size, there's a vulnerability to being that big and lying down. So you find them lying down on these inclines. I know out here in the Kruger, it's often you find their tracks and see them lying down on the side of termite mounds and drainage lines. Up in Kenya, I've seen a very similar thing, and so that, by my opinion, that's what they like to do. Can they lie down flat? 100%. Do they do it? Yes, absolutely. But given the choice, they seem to like a slight incline or decline. So 50, morning. You've sent in a comment to say that you find these bull elephants in Kenya quite impressive. You and me both, and I think you definitely speak on behalf of many of our viewers, which find these bull elephant in Kenya to be really remarkable specimens. You know, when we first saw this bull elephant, it was like, you've got some small tussle. You know, you're not that big or that remarkable, but for some reason, I don't know, I'm just drawn to his demeanor. I love the way that he's just been interacting with everything around the pan today. He had an interaction with some Patterson's eland a little bit earlier, and it really, he just has a calmness about him that I find quite intriguing. What I'm finding quite interesting is just sort of internally debating what this hawk eagle is doing. Its crop is full, so it's had another zebra herd kicking them about. Its crop's full, so it's had a meal. It's part of its pair. They are monogamous pair. You found that African hawk eagles pair up for life. They live very long. They live 40, 50 years. And the other member of the pair is probably sitting close by. But what I'm noticing is that he or she is sitting with its feathers in the water, not drinking. I imagine just trying to cool itself down. There it goes. The zebra have decided that they don't want to share with the eagle and have kicked them off. So my assessment is that it's just some form of cooling down in an effort to just manage the sort of maybe heat that builds up when meat is busy fermenting, and just to keep the bird's core temperature down. Let's see what the temperature is doing at Oldonga right now. Maybe we can get an idea of that. Give me 1 sec. It's actually quite cool there today. It's only 17 degrees there right now, the low 60s. Being East African on the equator and as high up as what they are, they don't really get very hot, to be honest with you. It's not like we find out in the Great National Park in South Africa where temperatures are expected to get into the 20s today. So it's not really overly warm. Not really overly warm at the moment there, but it's also not a cool day. I like the fact that there's some clouds, both high level and relatively low, busy building up. That's a great sign that the seasons are busy changing. And while we're having a look over there now, particularly for those watching the program for the first time, is the fact that we've got a herd of fringe-eared oryx that have joined the pan. They just occur in this particular area. And of the other oryx that we see are far less common, although this particular camera sees them very often. A very healthy population of fringe-eared oryx. Atoll Donyo. And what you may find remarkable is while we're having a look at it, so just have a look at the ears. The difference between the southern oryx or the fringe-eared oryx is that tuft of black hair that you see right at the end of the oryx's ear. The common oryx, the southern oryx, doesn't have that. The color is also different. They have like a rusty brown color rather than a gray color, and they're slightly smaller than the common oryx as well. Other than that, pretty much behave the same. But you know, one of the greatest things about this Live at the Waterhole show is that we've got multiple cameras all over Southern Africa, East Africa, Namibia. And why don't we go and have a look at one of the other camera feeds now and see what we've got around them. So, goodness me, at the flick of a switch, we've come 5,000 kilometers south. We are now at Africam's Tower Lodge Cam in Madikwe Game Reserve, and we've got a great view of a Nile crocodile busy basking with its mouth open. You might ask, why is crocodile have this fearsome pose? Gosh, that is a big crocodile. It's probably the biggest of the 5 crocodile that live at this particular pan. Amazing. You might be wondering, why is this crocodile sitting with his mouth open? So there's another crocodile that we've got in the foreground. That's crocodile number 2 of 5. Game view in the background of some wildebeest. So crocodile are cold-blooded, which means that they use the environment to manage their metabolism. So their metabolism increases when it's hot and decreases when, and there'll be a range of body temperature that this crocodile functions at. When they're lying out on the bank like they're doing now, often you find them lying with their mouths open. And what that does is it just cools down their blood. So what that crocodile there is doing is absorbing the sun's rays, letting go heat in an effort to just maintain the best body temperature possible at the moment with the least amount of effort. So he doesn't want to be rushing from the water onto the bank every couple of minutes. And will just be content to just open up his mouth. And when he just sinks down to an acceptable level, they will then close their mouth again and rise. This is the second largest crocodile species on Earth. The biggest one being the saltwater crocodile from Australia. But let me tell you that these Nile crocodiles can get enormous. I was very lucky just the other day to go up to the Limpopo River, a very remote place called Crook's Corner, which is on the border between South Africa, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, called Crook's Corner because thieves, crooks, and any number of I suppose miscreants used to live there and have sentries posted in the valley walls around this particular place. And when the South African police arrived to inspect them, then across the river into Mozambique, and then vice versa with Mozambique and Zimbabwe authorities. There we go. The crocodile just closed his mouth. Oh, he opened it again. Obviously, his throat got a bit dry and he needed to swallow. I don't know why he did that, but it was just my guess. He looks in great condition, this crocodile, actually, to be honest with you. Crocodiles store fat reserves in their neck, back, and tail. And he just looks like he or she. It's also very difficult to sex crocodiles. Well, looks just in great proportion. Goodness me, Steve G, you've asked me a question here which is very subjective. Firstly, you've said, what a magnificent animal, and I really do need to agree with you there. And then you've asked, how old is this animal likely to be? I see you did say he, but I don't know if it's a he or a she. The Unless you watch them digging nests and laying eggs, from a casual observer's point of view, you won't actually know, or at least not I will. And will once again require you to dart the animal or to subdue it in some way and to use another process to determine their sex. We'll get into how magnificent these crocodiles are from an evolutionary point of view in a while, but let's just talk about how old, I think this crocodile is going to be. Depending on which resource you read, and there are so many out there as to confound the senses between people who have observed wild crocodiles in a variety of different, and people that have observed captive crocodile or captive bred crocodile even. But suffice it to say that in an environment that's conducive to health and well-being and low stress, crocodiles will live longer than animals that are in environments where it's difficult to live, or food is scarce, or the environment is particularly harsh. So the point I'm trying to make is that there will be a range of ages. So the age of a crocodile will be relative to the environment that it lives in, and will be between sort of 60 and 80 years old, depending on the environment. So, a crocodile like this living in Madikwe with permanent water and relatively healthy fish stocks, I think, why wouldn't it live for a very long time? But is this a crocodile that's in an advanced age? So are we looking at an old crocodile or a young crocodile? I don't know. I suppose these animals were relocated to Madikwe. They're not naturally occurring here. So Madikwe is a conservation success story. And most of the animals, most of the wild animals that you have a look at now, were reintroduced to Madikwe a few years ago in a landmark project. And I'm assuming that at the time that these crocodiles were moved, that they were sexed and they were aged by a professional. But I don't know what those ages are. All right. But I've just been told by a team in Johannesburg who have on screens all over the place that we've got some really cool sighting happening in Djuma. So we'll come back to the crocodile and I'll carry on with the explanation. But let's go and have a look at Djuma. Aha. So we've got some Ellie's busy bathing. in a game of top trumps, a herd of elephant busy bathing at a camera is it's better than a crocodile sitting with its mouth open. Not that we meant any disrespect to the crocodile whatsoever. There's karma there, but action is cool. So we've just come 1,000 kilometers east to the Greater Kruger National Park, and we've got our Juma Cam picture up for you, and we've got a herd of elephant that is busy having a bit of a bath in behind some hippo. So that just disappeared. There we go. There's a young hippo showing its mouth off, and these ellies have just come in. It's a hot day here today. We're going to get upwards of 40 degrees centigrade today, which is over 100. And although it's still early in the morning, it's only 10 o'clock in the morning, it's over 30 degrees already. And there's a slight breeze blowing. And I'm sure that these ellies have been hot and bothered for quite some time and to come down and be one of the first to come and swim at the pan. It's really cool. So ellies, they will bath and shower like you're watching them doing now in an effort to cool down. So unlike that crocodile, which uses the environment to manage its metabolism, elephant need to maintain a constant, uses the, so let's go back on that so that I can give you the right context. Croc elephant are warm-blooded. The difference between the two is that one maintains a constant body temperature through its metabolism. The other one uses the environment to maintain a variable body temperature between an acceptable range. So that's the crocodile. Crocodile was lying on the bank with its mouth open in an effort to maintain a body temperature that it needed for the type of metabolism it wanted to achieve. The elephants have been getting hot in the weather all day. They need to cool their core body temperature down or risk heat exhaustion and possibly even heat stroke. And what they've done by spraying their flanks and behind their ears is wetting their skin, and as the breeze blows over that moisture and evaporates the water, it cools down and draws heat out of the body, and particularly from the ears. The elephant pumps all its blood in its body through its ears, and they act as large radiators. And wetting them increases the rate at which there's a temperature drop from the core of the elephant out into the environment. So quite a complicated system, but essentially the same thing. Sun tanning and swimming are about the same. I love the way that elephants, after they have a drink, suck the end of their trunk. Like we are just saying, they have a way of making any drink from any water source look like the most delicious thing ever. And the way that they sort of suck the end of their trunk, I'm sure it's the same as, I don't know, a youngster sucking his thumb. It's an appendage that goes to their mouth thousands of in a day. It virtually has a life of its own and gives away the mood of an elephant. Comes the other Ellie back again. You got to ask if they're going to go for a swim. This dam attracts a larger number of elephant, as does this area attract a large number of elephant in the dry season. This is South Africa, so this is the end of, we're in spring. The 1st of September marked our spring day, but it is still the dry season as well. We're expecting the first rains to come somewhere in October. Some years it's around the 10th, other years it's around the 30th. It all just depends on what the macro weather systems are busy doing. It's actually such a great shot. Normally you see them side on, you don't really see them face on. I love the way that baby Ellie's ears curl over their back. You'll notice that little one doesn't quite have the coordination of mom. Practicing, they're precocious, and so will practice what mom and aunties and cousins do, older ones, all the time. But similar to how human babies need to develop the coordination to walk or swim or grasp at small and how to use their trunks. And in fact, for the first couple of months, elephants will not be able to use their trunks much. They'll just be swinging around and getting the coordination needed to deal with this appendage, even to a degree that they will, when they're thirsty, and drink with their mouths at water like this. Calamari V, you've sent through a comment this morning. Thank you. You've asked an interesting question. Are elephants related to hippos? And then you've also made a statement that said elephants are so beautiful. I agree with you. They have to be one of my favorites as well. No, hippos are not related. Elephants are not related to hippos. Hippos are related to whales. And while if we go back far enough, everything will have a common ancestor, just that simple fact is enough to give you the answer. Is that hippo opening up his mouth again? Hippo have those massive mouths. They can almost open them 180 degrees, actually. And what that hippo was doing, there was just a youngster that didn't want to share his water with the elephant. And that wide open mouth yawn that they give is a way of that hippo trying to intimidate the elephant. It's obviously not worked, but the older the hippo and the more elaborate the yawn, the bigger the threat. So I hope that answered your question there, Calamari V. They are not that closely related, no. Even though they're the same grey color, and they've got the same sort of round body shape, and they enjoy water and the buoyancy of water, and they're large. Hippo are basically whale migrated into river mouths that turned from marine to fresh, left the water on their feet and moved into permanent water bodies, not necessarily those being a river. Course of their evolution. Elephants evolved from a sort of pig-like mammal into what you see them today. large bulk feeders, mixed vegetation with a trunk. And these fantastically shaped tusks. Well, that's another thing that hippos and elephants share, actually, is their tusks. Both made of ivory, slightly different texture and feel, the hippo ivory to elephant ivory. And obviously, elephant ivory is a lot bigger. Gosh, seeing these elephants go down there triggers so many memories for me. I've walked where this elephant is walking so many times I can't count. And it's just such a nostalgically pleasant feeling. There's a forest and a thicket down the river bed, and there's shade there as well. So I have no doubt that these ellies will make their way down into the thickets, feeding for the rest of the day, and then we'll rest up in the shade that that little valley provides and get going again as the night deepens. There you can see the ellies there walking through the bush. Their shape is just so amazingly suited to pushing aside vegetation. They hardly look. They do break a lot of vegetation. Obviously, they one of their main ecological roles is to control the growing exuberance of trees and shrubs, and to get sunlight down onto the forest floor. But when you see an elephant path like that, you don't, like that elephant just pushed his way through that vegetation and didn't disturb much there at all, especially considering the bulk of that ellie. Of course, as we're watching that elephant move into the distance, it allows us to share what is at another pan in the area. So why don't we go and have a look at Naledi? All right, so here we are, 100 or so kilometers further north of where we were. We're still in the Greater Kruger National Park. The park is enormous. It's 450 kilometers or so from top to bottom. And well, here is an old friend, and I say old with inverted commas because this female and her youngster we've seen before on the show. She comes down relatively frequently, every couple of days or so, and comes and grazes on the grass that's growing at the edges of the Naledi Pan. And she's doing that because, as you can see in the distance behind her, the grass that she is accustomed to feeding on is dead and dry and very unappetizing and holding very little nutrition. But the grass that she's feeding on now at this patch, she's now got pretty much uncontested access to, definitely from other warthog. And we've noticed that her and her baby come down here and feed on this grass. And I don't know, I suppose for those of you who watch the show a little bit more frequently than I do, you'll know if she comes down every second or third or fourth day or once a week. But she really is in great condition. And I think she's rather smart. She's taking a risk, of course. Any water body of any particular size in the Kruger National Park and surrounding areas has the threat of having a crocodile in it. 1%. And that can change from day to day because crocodiles do move overland to new bodies of water. And then also at this time of the year, animals come down to drink more frequently from the last few remaining permanent water spots. And it's not uncommon for leopard and lion to set up shop or camp at these locations. And so, just because yesterday was safe doesn't mean that today is going to be.
Do you want to contribute towards leaving a legacy for future generations? Raise Your Hand for Rhino strives to keep wild animals wild, with a focus on anti-poaching, conservation projects, habitat management, and veterinary services. Raise Your Hand for Rhino needs your help. Go to the WildEarth website and donate to the cause. Raise Your Hand for Rhino, leaving a legacy for future generations. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
Now, my tracker told me this interesting story. I don't know if you've watched, if you've lucky enough to be have watched Lion King over the years. This is Pumbaa, you know, the that eats the insects and sings that wonderful song with his meerkat friend. And my tracker, an incredible friend of mine, and one of the people I grew closest to in my life, a guy called Richard Duban. He told me a folklore story that suggested that warthog were born with skin that's too tight, and when they run through the bush, the grass slaps their eyes. They then have to close their eyes to protect their eyes, and their tails come up. And that's such a characteristic thing of a warthog, is that upright tail. You can't see it in this particular female. She's obviously has her eyes open, if we want to believe Richard's story. So her skin is relaxed and her tail is down. But when they do get alarmed, the tail will shoot straight up into the air and act as a beacon against the sky for her baby to follow. Who will be running close behind her. Gosh, they're loving this grass. I'm amazed at how deep this warthog has decided to walk into this water. They're not known to be particularly brave animals. Although I must be honest with you, a mother warthog, when their babies are caught, it makes for a fearsome adversary. I've watched mother warthogs save their babies from cheetah, successfully on a number of occasions by just bashing at the cheetah with those tusks. They can inflict quite a lot of damage. Those bottom tusks are razor sharp, and a warthog's neck and back are just thick with muscle, which gives them a lot of strength. I say congratulations to our Zumi on great control of the camera. They're not easy cameras to manipulate. This baby looks bored with its meal. Obviously, its tummy's full and wants to now walk around and explore a little bit. Mom's still busy eating. She's got more than just one mouth to feed, obviously. She's got all her babies. Mother warthog will have up to 6 piglets. She's got all her babies to feed inside her body and needs to generate as much body fat as she can so that she produces the best quality milk that she can. But like I was saying, it's going to be really cool to see if she will introduce her babies to us in December at some point. Definitely a camera feed to keep our eyes on. And let's hope that she makes it and doesn't get smashed by a lion or leopard or wild dog or cheetah between now and then. This is the only baby to have survived from her last litter last year, December. And for any number of reasons, she would have lost the others. Exposure, hunger, predation, sickness, any and all of those reasons could be valid. Torquay, you've asked if we wild in. I'm assuming you meant feral. Um, in other words, domesticated pigs that would then be released into the wild for whatever reason and then become feral and then integrate with warthogs. No, to be honest, not in my experience, Torquay. So I haven't seen any pigs in wildlife areas. There are 2 different pig species that we get. We get the diurnal, daytime warthogs, and we get the nocturnal, nighttime bush pigs. And both bush occur right up into sort of these peri-urban areas in the village I live in, Hoedspruit. Warthog are common sights during the day, and bush pig are common occurrences on the farms in and around town, just a couple of 100 meters out of town. We start to get reports of bush pig. But we don't see feral pigs in town at all. And I haven't seen a feral pig, gosh, I'm trying to think if I've seen a feral pig in any location I've been in Southern or East Africa. And I can't say that I have, and I'm pretty well traveled in this region. So I'm going to say no. Is it possible? Gosh, I mean, it's happened in other parts of the world. Why wouldn't it happen here? It just isn't one of those things that have happened that I'm aware of. Question. This mom is having such a feast. Often we wonder are we seeing the same elephant, and do we see the same impala? And we've got certain characters developing on this Live at the Waterhole show. For me, this baby warthog are one of them. The other is at Cat-Eye Pan, the terrapin that we see from time to time. There you saw the warthog's tail go up. So for those of you with sharp eyes, you would have noticed that the little tail go up into the air. Something disturbed that little warthog. Mom is oblivious. They're still carrying on with their breakfast. So the terrapin is one of the characters we're noticing. I'm starting to notice, at least up at Old Donyo in Kenya, certain elephants are becoming familiar. I'm trying to think of if there's if there's any other location that we're seeing characters start to develop. Not during my watch just yet, but I don't watch the show every day, and so it'll be interesting to know if you are noticing any other characters developing. And feel free to send through the comments, and I'll share them with everyone. Not everyone watches it every day, I'm assuming, and so it'll be cool to have us all updated on what characters we're seeing. You can see some environment is bothering her. She's left what she was doing. She's either full or there's some difference in the local environment that's making her feel insecure. Look at this little one. It's mud. It's going to lie down. So they do that when they're about to lie down. They scoop up. There you go. Now, interesting, what you're going to look at is they won't lie down for very long. They just sort of get their bellies wet usually and their flanks wet. And then often they go for a scratch. So let's keep an eye on this youngster. Yep. No, they were disturbed. Something happened. It was probably a bird. We'll see this youngster have a scratch. Let's see his back. We may get them going scratching on the rocks of the well. She may go back and have another mud bath. Mom's going to have a lie down now. There's something definitely happening in there. Either there's a bird of prey flying around, or there's some movement. There, that water goes and makes her mud pool. Down. Baby's got an itchy belly. Let's see how long Mom wallows for. Moms often go and roll right onto their sides. It's so cool, the mud bath. I love warthog mud bathing. It looks like something you want to do, right? So watch it. She might get her bum going. No, she wasn't going to go and scratch herself. Let's see. Let's follow her if we can. Baby's going to finish her bath now. No? They don't bath for very long. Considering we've seen elephants sit in water. Yesterday we watched an elephant bath for, 20 minutes. Warthog often just wet themselves and then get up and leave.
Do you want to know what the WildEarth team has been busy with lately? Join us on September 24th for a company update town hall. We will update our explorers on the growth and change that we have been experiencing and what more is to come. Watch it live on your nearest device. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
And we've got such a tapestry of birds to look at here. Obviously, the most notable are the flamingos that we see because flamingos are cool. Let's just face it; they're just epic birds. Then we've got the larger blades in the distance with the white faces. Those are red knobbed coots. And then there's what looks to be an Egyptian goose on the left-hand side. Let's say exactly whether it's back to us. But its general size and shape would suggest that it's an Egyptian goose. And then out of screen now was a little grebe. Look at that color on those wings of that flamingo. Yesterday the wind was higher. Today we can just bare breeze and we can see the great run of these flamingos in the water. So cool. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, not have come before, this is an important breed for these lesser flamingos. So before I do that, I just want to apologize for the signal breakup causing either the pick of my voice to sound like a machine gun, some internet problems, which is okay. We are coming to you from the most remote places on Earth, and from time to time, Grim, you crop into the system or crop up the system. So I apologize for that, but I'm sure we'll make do. So back to these lesser flamingos, very important breeding site. This Camp 7 breeding sites for these birds in the world, and only in South Africa. A very important place from a conservation point of view. And our Zoomy doing such a great job of zooming in, so I can confirm that that goose at the back there is an Egyptian goose. And they're a mixture of youngsters and adults, all busy preening themselves. These birds will spend long periods of every day making sure that their feathers are in the best shape possible, because it's how they keep themselves warm. It is by maintaining a certain waterproofness. So you'll notice that they'll be rearranging their feathers and making sure that they're all aligned properly. That young flamingo is having a snooze. But they're also busy applying oil from a gland at the base of their tail. You'll notice that particularly these flamingos in the foreground will collect some oil, there you go, from that gland at the base of the tail, and then rub that oil all over their feathers. And what that does is it just aids in the water repellency, getting water away from the skin and outside of the feathers to slough off. It just keeps them warm. You'll notice the coots in the background there doing exactly the same thing. So It's a great picture, that. The fact that you can see through the one nostril and out the other of these birds. Really good condition as well. There's a black-winged stilt in the top of the picture. Top right. There you go. Thank you, Zumi. Mariana, another one of our viewers from the UK this morning. Fantastic to hear from you. You've had such an amazing program, and the flamingos are beautiful. And so, firstly, thank you for the compliment. I agree with you. I really love this show. And that is a little grebe or a dab chick. And that's full grown. Really cool. And the flamingos are fantastic, to be honest with you. You know, birding and birds in general are right now in my career something that's keeping me quite intrigued. It's taken amazing places, met some incredible people and people that you wouldn't normally associate with. So, get out of your comfort zone to these far off places to go and find birds that are on a list of birds to see or rare and endangered species to see. Often I find that distance is marked by some event, um, and then the people that you meet who are similarly inclined are not people that you'd meet, in any general sense of the word. I'll just give you an example. Just last night, there was a very rare butting of a flock of white-throated bee came into South Africa for they tend to pop up once or twice in the last couple of. You're literally talking about single sightings in a year. And I jumped in the car and went up to go and try and could see them with some friends of mine, and met a guy who had seen 860 odd birds out of the 1,000 birds that occur in South Africa. I mean, that is just a phenomenal feat. To give you an example, I mean, even to put it into context, he's managed to check off and see with his own eyes almost all the birds that occur in South Africa, including the oceans. It's a great view over this Camphor's Dam, red knob coots, little grebes. Let's keep an eye on the fringes of the water there, because although we're seeing highly contrasted birds like the flamingos with their pink and white feathers and the coots with their black bodies, what we may be missing are the camouflaged birds that enjoy and frequent the pan edges. And considering the fact that we're all sort of amateur birders in our own right, it would be a great thing to see something new or unique. Slightly zoomed out picture there, giving us an extent of how big Camphor's Dam actually is. It's a 500 hectare expanse of water. Which is pretty big for this area. These pans are usually not that big. They're usually quite small and they're ephemeral, which means that in wet years, that's a bit longer than in dry years. But in general, they will dry up as soon as the rains have finished and the temperatures increase. There, we're doing a good job of scanning the banks.
Do you want to touch the lives of future protectors of our Earth? Thanks to our wonderful WildEarth explorers, WildEarth Kids is back. Sign your class up for WildEarth schools and enjoy a special virtual field trip to Africa with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Very warm welcome to the kids from WildEarth Primary School.
We'll be dedicating the first hour of sunset safaris every Wednesday to our planet's future defenders. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
Unlike the waterbuck, the hartebeest have males and females both have horns. You can see that beautiful bull standing behind his female there. You can see the difference in the thickness and the shape of the horn. Her horns being more elegant, so that's the female that we're having a look at now. Her horns being more elegant and his being more robust. Similarly, the wildebeest, the dark-shaped antelope that you're seeing at the top of the screen, they also have males and females have got horns, and the males also have more robust horns. Really such a epic view. Just every depth of field we're having a look at's got an animal in it. In the foreground we've got a pair of white-faced duck preening each other next to some black-winged stilt. Waterbuck giving us a great shot of that white ring on its rump, and then this herd of hartebeest, red hartebeest, making its way away from the water. Not such a common sight. There we just zoomed into this hartebeest. It's a great view of an antelope that's one of the fastest antelope in the country, very closely related to the tsessebe, which is the running antelope in Africa. These hartebeest are not much slower and will top out the speed at around about 65 to 70 kilometers an hour. Now, considering that cheetah can run at over 120 kilometers an hour, elephant can run at 50. 40 kilometers an hour. And I think Hussein Bolt runs at about 30 kilometers an hour. Give you an idea of the context as to how fast they can move. All testimony to their body shape. Sort of solid torso. The wildebeest also has it. Most of the weight carried in the forequarters. The fulcrum of the body, in other words, the balancing point of these animals will be over the forequarters. Slightly sloped rump. Hooved. And just powerful back legs. Leaving most predators in their dust. Being rather big like this, they won't fall easy victim to cheetah or wild dog. Wild dog will catch them, as will cheetah, but it's, the cheetah far more suited to eating springbuck. That light-colored antelope in the top right hand of the screen, just in front of the wildebeest, and they are to eating this. At this hartebeest's weight, which is around 200 to 250 kilograms, you are looking at lion and leopard. Lion, leopard, and spotted hyena. Actually, not leopard. Lion and hyena being their predators. The wind is pumping today. Let's see what the wind is doing. Give me 1 second to have a look at the wind speed. The wind speed today is 23 kilometers per hour, so still 10 kilometers per hour slower than it was at Kimberley yesterday. But enough to blow wind like that. And at about 16 kilometers an hour, wind goes from being sort of a pleasant breeze, bringing in some nice smells and cooling the sweat on your brow, to being fairly unpleasant. So anything above 20, so 20 to 30 kilometers per hour, you're looking at gusts of wind there being able to blow over things on your table and blow dust into your face, and it's like pleasant. And above 30 kilometers per hour, animals tend to go into hiding. You don't really see as many of them. So on very windy, you don't see as much animals as what you would on days that windy. I think what happens is that animals tend to get a little bit insecure with all the movement in the bush, and they don't know what is a predator and what isn't. And it brings in smells from one quadrant and confounds the ears. You can see the wind there gusting in the background. Hasn't stopped the animals from gathering at Afrikaans Tower Lodge Camp today, that's for sure. The crocodile has moved off, disappeared into the water. And waterbuck bull, he's just laid down. This time of the year, there's not much grass out there, and so there goes the crocodile in front of the white-faced duck pair on the left-hand side. I'm going to exit the screen now. There you go. In front of the grey heron. The croc got warm enough, picked up the temperature, maybe just moving out into deeper water, but as we saw yesterday, it could also be hunting. The water is drying up at the moment, and what that's doing is that's concentrating fish into the deeper parts of the pools. And yesterday we saw a crocodile hunting those fish. Right now we are watching that waterbuck bull, who's got a fantastic set of horns. And I'm talking about character development around these pans. I want to say that I've seen that waterbuck before. He's got such a dramatic, magnificent pair of horn. I want to say that He's another one of the characters we see from time to time here at African Tau Lodge. And then, of course, the special for today, which is the hartebeest, the red hartebeest, which we'll be having a look at now. I don't know. I suppose there's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I don't know if I find hartebeest particularly appealing from an aesthetic point of view. I can appreciate their speed. I can appreciate their lovely coloration. I can appreciate, there's a spoonbill, a pair of spoonbills coming into your view. The two white birds walking. They've been here for a couple of days now, 3 days. And there we can see the crocodile as well. Become quiet in the shallows. Too small to hunt that waterbuck. So that crocodile is just coincidentally in the same frame. Terry, you've asked an interesting question. Do crocodiles not hunt birds? Yes, they absolutely do hunt birds, Terry. Often what you'll find is weaver bird colonies will establish themselves in branches and trees that overhang water bodies. And weaver birds are precocious birds. And often will fight down to the water's edge with one another, and crocodiles have learned in some areas to just hang around underneath these trees and snap up the birds that come close to the water. But that spoonbill and that heron and those ducks, for instance, in this particular shot, are aquatic and are actually quite used to seeing and sensing crocodiles, and so will keep their eye open and will be quite wary when a crocodile is moving toward them. But their comfort zones with crocodiles are just very small, and so often you find them in close proximity. You'll see that this spoonbill knows exactly how close to get to this crocodile. Watch my prediction, I'll prove completely false, and this crocodile just smashed this spoonbill. That is generally my luck when I predict one thing and it couple of seconds later exactly the opposite happens, but not in this particular case, thankfully. It would have been very embarrassing. And the top of the screen we've got some impala, an Egyptian goose walking down to the water's edge. That crocodile is moving backward and forward. Now, usually, in our experience, that means it's hunting. So I think it would be a good idea for us to just not necessarily zoom in on this crocodile, but definitely keep it in our view while we're looking at everything else and see if it is hunting or not. You can see that crocodile now moving off to the right. What it may very well have been doing on the bank is its body temperature so that it can expend energy explosively in an effort of fishing. What we've seen, maybe this crocodile or one of the other 5 do, is that they corral fish into the shallows and then form their body into a U shape. And as the fish then panic and try and escape around the crocodile, it then snaps up the fish. And yesterday we watched an unsuccessful hunt. A couple of weeks ago we watched a successful hunt. using the same tactic and at around about the same time of day. Having watched crocodiles for years on the Mara River, I can say that this crocodile's coming into the shallows. I got no doubt it's busy hunting. I think this crocodile is definitely hunting. I don't think it's going to come out. I think what he's trying to do is corral fish into this little cove. But anyway, let's keep it. Quite exciting to see what it's busy doing. Hey, you just don't know. What we usually see is the crocodile using its body like a blockade to block the fish. But you might find that it coming in there so boldly has pushed fish now into this little shallows. I don't see the movement of fish just yet. But like we saw yesterday, often what happens is these fish will explode next to the crocodile as they're trying to get out. And then the crocodile then reacts to movement. They strike sideways. It's not very often you see a crocodile of this side thing out in the forward motion. Let's see what's going to happen. Quite exciting, actually. You don't really know what's going to happen. You're just going to come out in suntan, or we're going to watch a hunt. Okay, it's getting shallow. Let's see what this crocodile is going to do. Oh no, the fish have an escape route. That spoonbill in the background. Okay, let's see what this crocodile is going to do. Gosh, I don't know where to look. So exciting. There we go. Okay, so here we've got our first cove. I was now questing into this cove, definitely not getting out. If it happens, it's going to happen quick, so keep your eyes glued to the screen. Fish don't have much room to maneuver here, unless they can jump over the little grassy blockade there. Alright, so here we go. Crocodile's deciding what the story is. It would be wise to push the fish into this little muddy shallow there we are, and then block it off using his body and his tail. Okay, here we go. They are sneaky things though. So I don't see any movement of fish in the shallows just yet. A small outlet there. And the crocodile's just waiting to see if the fish come back his way, rather than forcing them in to jump over that block.
WildEarth is home to Africa's endangered unicorn. We aim to inspire the protection of our rhinos by connecting people to them.
I am here with a beautiful female rhino and her calf.
Join our naturalists as we track our favorite rhinos on safari.
Hello, big boy.
Watch it live and join the rush this Rhino Day with WildEarth.
being cold-blooded, these crocodile have no real. They have a size limit that they can get to. Obviously, I mean, there's no crocodiles weighing 15 tons and eating brontosauruses, and it's because they have a longevity. But given a warm climate, warm water, and an abundant source of easily accessible food, crocodiles will reach 1,000 kilograms, 2,000 pounds, and 15 feet in size. Let me tell you, they can get big. I'm just trying to see what's this crocodile doing. Just while we want to move off, and then he goes and does. Are the fish coming back? I see some movement in the water there behind him. Yeah. Having been around for a couple of 100 million years, crocodile know more about what they're doing than we do. He is moving again. Not coming out onto the grass. They decided that. I think what he picked was a cove. He didn't really realize that the fish could move past and around him. And he's now cooled down to a point where he needs to heat himself up again. But I was on a quest to see how big the largest crocodile, Nile crocodile, on record is. Give me 1 second. So, the largest Nile crocodile ever recorded, reliably recorded, was recorded in Tanzania at a place called Mwanza, which shockingly, I was swimming in Lake Victoria, is on the banks of well, Mwanza city is on the banks of Lake Victoria, and I was lucky enough to spend an afternoon with my son in the water there, and we literally spent 6 or 7 hours together in the water. It was fantastic. But the largest Nile crocodile ever recorded comes from there at a whopping 21 feet long, weighing 1,089 kilograms, 2,400 pounds. Gosh, dinosaur. Um, Well, anyway, on that note, let's go and have a look at another camera, see what else we got on show for us today. Gosh. Ah, so now we're at Africam and Koropan. We've now come 1,000 kilometers. And like I was saying a little bit earlier, the glory of this show is that we've got these cameras all over the place and got things to see. And so we've come from Nile crocodile, and we're now having a look at African elephant, Nile crocodile in Madikwe Game Reserve, and African elephant in the Greater Kruger. And this is a breeding herd of elephant around the well, or the seep of fresh water that's between these two ellies on the left. It's adjacent pan and the mud wallow that it allows them, or the shower that it allows them. So cool, the noises. I don't know what you're hearing. I don't have an audio feed from the camera, but I'm only imagining that you're hearing the slosh and gurgle and spray and shower and all the birds in the area. It must be wonderful. Not a particularly deep pan, this, but one that is frequented by elephant nonetheless. We see elephant here pretty much every day at this time of the year. They love coming for the freshwater seep on the left, and then while each elephant is having its turn at the seep, the others usually go and have a great mud shower that you're seeing that elephant do on the far right. And off on the beach to the right further. It's so cool. It's really cool. It's really cool watching these elephants on this beach. I don't know, there's just a peace about it. And it always looks like the elephants are walking on water, those ones on the left hand side there. There's just some perspective there for the depth of the water and then the angle of the camera. And looks like we've got some magic elephants. So nice to see, relative abundance of surface water at this time of the year. These pans provide just that. And often what you see elephants just reveling in the I don't know, just the abundance of it. This week has been a lesson for me, or what I'm trying to learn from the Ellies, at least anyway, is a lesson in being more of a human being than a human doing. And often what I've noticed, at least the lesson I'm taking from the bush this week, is that be a bit more present, take your time, enjoy where you are, be present in the moment. If you're having a shower, enjoy it. If you're eating a meal, enjoy it. If you're being touched by your children or you're able to enjoy close physical, space with your kids, enjoy that. That's just the lesson I'm taking. I'm not preaching, obviously. You take your lessons how you want. But for me, at least anyway, this week, it's just been a lesson in being a human being and not doing. And to remind myself about those. I love the way that Ellie's back leg is just sort of cocked. They rest like that. I think the bank has got a bit of an angle there, and it's not the most comfortable. These Ellies are waiting there, the fresh water, being buzzed by this one elephant cow. Not letting anyone else share it for now. I see she already started to spray it out all over the place. So she's just being a cow, in inverted commas. Comments today. What I'm busy saying. Yeah, she's now made some space, allowing that youngster to drink. Now you being wasteful. Although I suppose spraying it into the pan is not being that wasteful. It's when it sprays onto the ground and then is left to dry out without the other ellies having a chance. You can see them all bunched up here. I have no doubt what's going to happen is this matriarch will just make the silent but definite decision to move on, and they'd all then move off into the bush at relative pace. Let's see if you can judge when that moment happens. It's more of a sense than anything else. And a change, an instant change in attitude that all the elephants exhibit. This elephant having a good smell at baby and this other female. Puffing the scent onto the roof of the mouth.
Get ready for your daily dose of African wildlife magic. Be enchanted by the intimate moments shared by the animals as they drink, play, and interact in their natural habitat. With our daily wildlife videos, you'll experience the thrill of safari adventures without ever having to leave your seat. Let the wild adventure unfold right before your eyes. Africam, always live, always wild.
So these elephants are just waiting for the matriarch to make a decision on where they'll go next. But what it looks like is that all the adult elephants have finished drinking yet. And so that's why they're hanging around. Each is having their turn at the well. I know there's a lot of water in the pan, but elephants really do like to drink clean water. And where possible, they'll spend long periods of time waiting for their time at the end of the freshwater source. And that well you see on the left of the elephant on the left provides that fresh water. And so they just hanging around and waiting for all the adults to finish. There goes one. What's this Ellie doing when he's... What are you doing, big guy? Getting closer to the mud? Weird pose. He looks so awkward, elephants. But as we've seen at other of our camera feeds, as awkward as what they look, they really get pretty much anywhere they want. Really, really adaptable. I love the fact that there's an air of expecting around at the moment. You just see that elephants are just waiting to do what they want to do. Just went on its own little adventure over there. It's okay. We do come to you from the most remote in Africa, and with a live feed. The video feed that you're having a look at is what's happening right now. It's 11:30 where I'm sitting at the moment. So 11:30 at Afrikaans and Koropan in the morning. We're in the Greater Kruger National Park, which is on the eastern side of South Africa, close to Mozambique. We're probably about 100 miles or so from the Indian Ocean. And this wilderness has been nothing else except for wilderness for 3.5 billion years. So it wasn't reclaimed land, this is protected land. And as such, very, very important. It's a World Heritage Site, the Kruger National Park. And a place that I've called my home for the last 25 years. Hot chat today. I'm looking, the breeze that's busy blowing over me now where I'm sitting in an office is warm, and it feels like I'm sitting in a warm blanket. I love these September, October days. I feel like I'm being held because it's such a great smell on the air. It's just caressing my skin. It's lovely. But it's going to be a sweaty day today. But it is South Africa's Heritage Day, and we're celebrating how diverse our culture is. South Africa's culture is really diverse. And you may have heard the phrase that South Africa referred to as the Rainbow Nation, and that's because we've got so many different cultures. To name but a few, we've got Zulu, Xhosa, Pedi, Tswana, Ndebele, Khoisan, Hindu, Muslims, and Afrikaner people, all mixed into our culture. And today is the day that we're celebrating that. And for most, it means that we celebrate it with our friends and our families, and around a barbecue. And so that's what I'm looking forward to the rest of the day. I'm going to be celebrating my South Africanness by lighting a fire with some friends and barbecuing some meat and vegetables on the, we call it a braai, B-R-A-A-I. And I think I'm going to be sharing that exact thing with many other South Africans today. And just like that, the matriarch has now decided, okay, everybody has had enough of a swim and enough of a drink, and it's time to move off. It's time to go and eat. This time of the year, they'll be eating around 20 hours a day, and we'll sleep very long. And unfortunately, we'll be moving quite long distances between food and water sources, drinking just once a day. So they're probably, if they're in the area, they'll come back to this water point tomorrow, but that's not necessarily the case. Elephants can walk 50 miles in a day looking for food and water, and will often march without any rhyme or reason, kilometers and kilometers. And that'll put them in walking distance any number of other water points. And so we don't know if we're going to see this herd again. But interestingly, if you want to make a note of how many adult females there are, what sub-adult males there are, and the sizes of the calves, you can use their moms as a base. Calf number, smallest calf is at mom's belly, or whatever. And we'll see if we can, or you can identify these at a different time. Today has just been one of those days that has been highlighted by some cool walk-offs. We've had elephant and warthog, and even African hawk eagle sort of walk off into the distance. And I don't know, I've quite enjoyed it. It's sort of like the end of a story or the end of a chapter. For some reason, I love watching these animals walk off today. I suppose it just depends on what you feel like and what your mood is like in the end. Youngster made some space for afternoon snack. You can see the breeze blowing the trees and the bushes out there across the country. It's a bit windy today. Massive weather systems change. We're moving from our winter through spring into summer, and with it there's a predominant pressure change. We have a high pressure system make space for a low pressure system. And the winds change from being predominantly out of the north to being predominantly out of the southeast, which will then bring all the rain. So we get most of our rain from the southeast in this particular area. And we're quite looking forward to our rains coming in December. Well, our big rains will fall January, February, March, with the highest rainfall period. I'm not saying that next year will be the case at all, but with the highest rainfall period being the last week in Jan and the first 2 weeks mostly in February. So that is when we can expect rains. We can have rains, sort of early rains, fall and flood areas in early December. but they are rare occurrences. All right. And now that our Ellies have moved off, we can then go to one of our other cameras around and go and see what's going on. So why don't we head off to Juma and go and see what's going on there? So still within the Greater Kruger Park. We got some Ellies swimming. What a great sighting is that. So Juma is one of these cameras we come to from time to time. It doesn't generally have as much water as this. We've had a very high rainfall year, relatively speaking, last summer. Had a lot of rain. In fact, these areas cut off from one another because of the rain for a couple of days in February. And that has filled up this reservoir quite a lot and deep enough for elephants to have a swim in. And like we've seen Ellies having a swim at this dam a lot recently. It's been such a privilege. And what we're looking at is no different. I really enjoy that. We're seeing Ellies swim at Tau, African's Tau Lodge Cam as well, in a mud pool. This isn't a mud pool. It's much more of a pan with its sediment layer than a mud wallow that is created by elephants. Agitate the sand deeper, but I don't know. There's elephants, especially babies, have an exuberance. There's hippo in the water, and I think that female was just saying, just make some space. But yeah, they can play in the water. Some kudu in the background, coming in from the right of the whole herd of female greater kudu. It is just such a great shot. I love seeing these wide-angle shots of Ellies in water. And I had their swim. And very similar to the herd of Ellies which we saw at Nkoro, which is Nkoro lying probably about 5 kilometers or so out towards the right of the screen as the crow flies. All of a sudden what happens is the matriarch just decides, enough of that, you've had enough of it, let's go, and we'll then move off, forcing the rest to follow. Over the years, this particular pan, this is one of the longest running webcams in the world. Been going now since the sort of mid 1990s. I can tell you one thing, that as a casual observer, there's been so much that we've seen from this camera. It's just unbelievable.
Are you looking to take your bond with the wild to the next level? Download our app and access in-depth chats with our naturalists and special guests. Connect and converse in real time on our Ask Me Anythings, fireside chats, hangouts, and town halls. WeChat, available on the WildEarth app. WildEarth, we are Safari.
So nice seeing these elephants give themselves a dust bath after they've just had a swim. You see them. That one's finally got her orientation right. And this youngster trying to get down the bank, all busy trying to tusk out some more sand. These young illies, they're always playing around, so you don't quite know exactly what they're doing. Really nice to see, though, to be honest with you. That dust bathing that they're doing obviously is creating a bit of a layer on top of the sand, the wet skin, insulating them and protecting them from the sun. They do attract a lot of sun's rays, and they can actually overheat. An elephant can get heat exhaustion, and in extreme cases can even get heat stroke. They're very good at obviously looking after themselves, but being the size of a car, a large family car, they do attract a lot of heat. So nice seeing these elephants on this damn wall. I've had so many sightings, and I've only been at Juma and watching the Juma cam for a fraction of the time that it's actually been active. It's a great part. Lots of really cool memories, and hopefully lots of more adventures and experiences to have with you as well. Right now, it's deep enough to actually have some hippo in it. Wasn't always the case. Hippo come and go with the seasons. On dry years, the hippo will not have enough water to live here and will move off to the Sand River and other larger bodies of water in the area. We'll concentrate there. But on wet years like this, where the water is deep enough to harbor more than one animal, we're lucky enough to have some hippo with us as well, sharing it with every other resident here at Juma. Talking about how these elephants can pretty much get wherever you can as a human. I mean, I've seen elephants on top of cliffs, on top of boulders. I've seen them in deep river valleys. I've seen them walking around in mud that would sink a tank. They really are as awkward as what they look. They really definitely do get around. The little baby using his head. Oh no, he was digging up some sand. I thought he was going to use his face to get up the embankment, but didn't need to. And there, the hippo. That's the dam wall in a river called the Milwati. It's a seasonal river. It only flows after heavy rain for a period and then stops flowing. For the rest of the time, it is just a sandy riverbed, a couple of feet wide. Lots of great trees on its banks, like that one in the distance there of the illies. It's a knobthorn with its green leaves that have come out and its show of fine, fuzzy yellow flowers. So many of those trees flowering at the moment. Even where I'm sitting now, I have probably about 10 or 20 of them. And they infuse the air this time of the year. It's coming down the bank. They infuse the air this time of the year with a delicious perfume. All the wisterias are flowering at the moment. All the shambok pods are flowering at the moment. The gardenias have started to flower. It assaults the senses a little bit, the smells around. The illy just shoving in that delicious snack. Seems to be some or other type of plant that's growing on the banks there that is just delighting them. The mom is busy shoving some grass into her mouth. Can't be very appetizing. Shame. The Illies are needing to feed. They can deal with bulking, and so they basically their systems just increase the pace at which food moves through their system. The more food there is, the more they need to eat, the faster their system processes it. So this time of the year, a lot of the food that they're eating just goes in one end and comes other mixed with a little bit of water. But in this particular case, this baby and mom have found a morsel here that looks greener than most other places. I'm assuming we'll spend some time eating it. You can see how her tusks have been washed clean. The tusks do, most of the time, the tusks have mud on them, but they do obviously get dirty, and will also be stained by the vegetable juices of the plants that they eat. But in this particular case, I think the abrasiveness of her trunk and the water, with the little bit of sediment that's in the water, has been enough to wash off the layer of dirt accumulated on her tusks, and they're a brilliant white color. It's lovely. See it shining out brilliantly. She also has some symmetrical tusks, same size and shape. Basically, the one looks a bit wider than the other. Could have just been her orientation to me though.
WildEarth is home to Africa's endangered unicorn. We aim to inspire the protection of our rhinos by connecting people to them.
I am here with a beautiful female rhino and her calf.
Join our naturalists as we track our favorite rhinos on safari.
Hello, big boy.
Watch it live and join the rush this Rhino Day with WildEarth.
Splashing itself. Another herd of elephant. Not the same one as we've been watching. Here's a hippo, relegated to the opposite end of the pan. They will come out at sunset and will come out to eat grass, wandering as far as 30 kilometers away from this particular water source before coming back in these teardrop shapes from the water. Mothers and calves separating out from the herd. There's a little baby there. Oh, that's so cool. You can see the scrapes on their hides from the teeth. For being a contact species, they're quite intolerant of one another and will often bite and slash at each other, leaving cuts and scrapes on their skins. A hippo, I've never seen a hippo hold its breath for 6 or 7 minutes. It's more common or not than just a couple of seconds, like, I don't know, 40, 45 seconds. And when they sleep, they actually sleep like whales do. They don't sleep upside down like whales and dolphins do, but they will sleep and subconsciously raise their head above the water to take a breath. They can hold their breath for a long time. But like I said, generally it's just a couple of seconds at a time, maybe up to a minute. And then they exhale and take a breath and then put their head back under the water again. It's not floating there. They are resting on the sand bank on the bottom. Hippo move through a water column not by swimming. They're actually not very buoyant at all and will porpoise. So in deeper water, what they'll do is they'll run along the bottom of the water and then jump, surfacing briefly and then go down again. Very similar to dolphins and porpoises breaching the surface of the sea to get their gulp of air. And a hippo, very similar to an elephant, is a keystone species in that it's hippo who are primarily responsible for keeping waterways open and flowing and are vitally important to the health of a system. In fact, certain human civilizations have collapsed because of humans then hunting the hippo to a point where their numbers are not sustainable to keep the waterways open. The channels then silt up and sediment up. The rivers then divert, seas empty. I mean, I'm being a bit dramatic, but there's a big abscess on the left-hand side of that elephant's butt. Could be a tusk wound, could also be a blowfly larvae. Can't imagine that it's comfortable. You're going to get any number of parasites feasting on the body fluids there. It doesn't look like it's too bad. She's not limping or anything like that. And so, apart from just being a inconvenience, I don't think that there's any danger to her whatsoever. Right, for those of you who have joined this show and don't know who's speaking at you, my name is Stefan Winterboer. I'm a naturalist. And along with my colleagues, I co-host this Live at the Waterhole show. It's a live show, as the name would suggest. And so what you're looking at now is exactly what's happening right now at the Djuma Private Game Reserve and a number of other cameras that we have all over southern Africa, Namibia, and even all the way to Kenya. And it is also an interactive show. Oh gosh, there's a waterbuck bull that's just marched very majestically into the shot. I didn't know that he was going to come any more than you, and that's the great thing and the surprise about live shows. You don't know what's going to come up minute by minute. It is an interactive show, so you can send through your comments and your questions. You can send through topics for discussion and debate. You can send through observations that you or some of your friends may have had in other parts of the world or Africa or at different times in the same place. And I'd gladly share it with all of us. It's great to hear from you, and so don't be shy. If you don't know how to ask a question or send in a comment, you just have to register on the WildEarth website, and it'll take you through a process, the end of which means that you'll be able to ask me some questions or send through your things. As the name would suggest, waterbuck are associated. There's a warthog having a bath there in the distance as well. Let's see, just getting its butt full of sand. Just making sure all the nooks and crannies are properly covered. You gotta love it. They don't bath for very long, but when they do a proper job. So back to the waterbuck. As the name would suggest, they are associated to water, and it's not uncommon for them to jump into water and swim across. They're presented with a challenge, like lions hunting them, for instance. That thick, shaggy fur that they've got helps the water to drain away from their skins. And they've actually got a lot of... There's that warthog still having a swim. Goodness. A proper mud bath. It's hot here today. We're looking at 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees centigrade. This warm wind blowing and having a nice insulating, cooling layer of mud over you is exactly what the doctor ordered. And so, apart from it making us dirty, I think the joy of having a mud bath for something like a warthog must be unbelievable. I mean, just picture the fact that you could be in exactly the same position. Also, what will happen is as the mud dries, it'll capture parasites, ticks. And what will happen is that the warthog will then go and... There's a nyala that just stepped out of the bushes. So we've got a waterbuck. Now we've got a nyala bull left of the warthog and an impala right of the warthog. So that herd of Ellies has now replaced the other one that was swimming a little bit earlier. Let's see if that warthog has come out of its swimming hole yet. No, still busy having a swim, it looks like. Which is quite cool. Yeah, having a proper swim. There's some more nyala. So excuse me, it wasn't an impala, it was a female nyala. So there you're looking at male, that's the shaggy, furry, horned male nyala, full-grown guy, and a female nyala, delightfully striped, rusty-colored one, and that's a nyala ewe. Nyalas that we make the differentiation between bull and cow, ram and ewe. Anything smaller is ram and ewe, anything larger is bull and cow, but for nyala, you have a Nyala bull and a Nyala ewe, which is unique. I know it's just being pedantic about words and things. It doesn't change what they are. This warthog is having the best bath. Now let's see if we can keep an eye on the warthog. Usually what happens after a magnificent bath like that is they'd come out of a scratch. So let's see if there's a scratching post nearby. First, he's going to have a bit of a drink. The scratching post would be a rock or a stump that's placed at exactly the right height to offer the warthog a rubbing post. And like I was mentioning, that mud sort of encapsulates and captures parasites, ticks predominantly. And as it dries, the mud contracts and pulls the ticks off of the body, and then the warthog will then rub the mud off on rubbing posts. And quite often what you see is ticks caught in the mud. Let's see if we can keep an eye on that warthog. There's a decent stick. And maybe we're lucky and we can see the warthog going for... It's gone for another swim. Goodness, that warthog is having a proper bath. They're hidden slightly, but it won't stay for too long. Hidden slightly there is the warthog having another swim, and I got a feeling that it's going to go and scratch himself. Yeah, heading straight towards the rubbing post. Well, let's watch here. You're going to watch something quite funny. They put a lot of effort into their scratches, and that's at the right height for a butt scratch, which is quite funny actually. So there you go, rubbing off some mud.
Get ready for your daily dose of African wildlife magic. Be enchanted by the intimate moments shared by the animals as they drink, play, and interact in their natural habitat. With our daily wildlife videos, you'll experience the thrill of safari adventures without ever having to leave your seat. Let the wild adventure unfold right before your eyes. Africam, always live, always wild.
So something's happened that has disturbed those elephants. You can see the ears open, head up. and that sort of rushed departure from the edge of the pan. But it looks like it was just a bit of paranoia from that youngster, because the matriarch is still calm and feeding just on the edge there. Illies can run off and maintain a massive speed, 35, 40 kilometers an hour, silently through the bush. They come through like a freight train. You hear the bushes crashing, and it's terrifying. And then they passed you in this tight knit group, covering distance you wouldn't be able to do as a sprint, and put up for hours when they're leaving in an area where there's been a significant threat to their safety. Thankfully, refuges like the Kruger National Park offer very few of those opportunities. And so I've only witnessed it once or twice in my life, these rushes. You do not want to be in the front of an elephant rush, let me tell you. They will come over you, and that'll be that. You can see there's some insecurity there. Just the general attitude. Those elephants are eating in the background there. This one is not quite sure what's going on. Blacksmith lapwing coming in to see if there's any opportunity to snatch up a morsel, disturbed elephant. Norman, you've asked if it could be the hippo scaring them off. Sure. That's 100% a feasible hypothesis for sure. Hippo are not an uncommon sight to see, but they can blow bubbles and, rush out of the water and try and intimidate the elephant. They're very intolerant of their place that they're going. There's something there is disturbing the elephant. It's okay. It's not like they're running around terrified. But yeah, Norman, it could also be there we go. That is what's happening. We've got an elephant herd that's swimming across to come and join them. That's amazing. There we go. That is so cool. What a privilege. Rushing around in the water. I'm going to chase. There you go. That's how an elephant runs. If you've ever wanted to see, you can see the tail's cocked up. There's something just making all the elephants a bit edgy. It could be the wind. It could be the hippo. Be other elephant, a bull elephant in the area that's in must and creating some consternation of the herds. Literally could be anything. So maybe some people on game drive or working. Waterbuck and the Nyala don't look too phased. The elephant will probably have a bit of displacement aggression. See, they're looking over their shoulders because the antelope have come out of the bush, coming down to the water's edge. The elephant have calmed down now. Who knows? A woolly neck stalk in the tree. Well done for spotting that, Zumi. There you go. Great view of a woolly-necked stork, one of the smaller of the storks that we have in the area, and usually found solitary or in pairs around water points with its characteristic woolly neck appearance. Whole herd of impala there. They've come out of the bushes onto that grassy plain, sharing it now with the nyala and the elephant. Elephants are usually quite intolerant of disturbances around them. Quite enjoy peace and quiet. See that big game path that they're on there now. One leading up and away. Here they go, following the matriarch. The young bull. No, that's a female. Disturbed by the presence of the nyala. He's standing in the shade. This time of the day, starting to get blisteringly hot. If they've been up since early feeding or fed through the night, actually be more beneficial for them to just relax in the shade until it starts down again. The hottest days are actually still coming. In this part of the world, we find that the temperatures increase toward the afternoon, with the hottest time of the day here usually around 3-4 o'clock. And as the season progresses, we'll notice that not in the direction that we're looking now, but behind the camera, directly behind, because that's southeast, we will get huge banks of cumulus clouds building. And if we're very lucky and it's a great year for rain, then those cumulus clouds will dump their rain over this area. And we'll be lucky enough to have healthy vegetation then for the rest of the season. Very similar to other shots of these wide angle shots that we have of these glorious African vistas, is that you don't quite know where to look. Everywhere you look, there's some new and exciting bit or bob. Here we have probably 2 herd of elephant in the same patch of bush, sharing it with a herd of impala, a warthog that's disappeared somewhere, some nyala, and a waterbuck bull. These elephants now just resting on the bank, wisely so. Another young nyala coming out of the thicket. So we're in Kenya with the Old Donyo Lodge Africam feed, and what we've got is for the first time in many weeks, we're seeing the sky darkening deliciously behind that Maasai giraffe. It's far darker than what we've seen, or I've seen at least anyway. And this is very typical of Kenya, is that during the wet seasons, these clouds build up in the afternoons, and being on the equator, it absolutely buckets down. And so I'm glad to see that the season's starting to change. It's dry and dusty in Kenya at the moment. In fact, in a lot of the counties, there's still effectively a drought and people are starving all over the place. So definitely great to see it building up with clouds over the last couple of weeks, months probably. We've just had blue skies with a patchy cloud work. Today, no blue sky at all. And there we go. Saying cheers to the giraffe. But it didn't stay longer. We opened up the show on this camera this morning. There was a elephant and a pair of African hawk eagles, as well as some Patterson's eland, and then one or two fringe-eared oryx and some zebra. And now there's nothing. And it's not because there's no animals around there, let me tell you. It's mainly because of the fact that this pan has a cycle, and so different mixes of animals will come in at different times. And we're between those cycles at the moment. And the frequency at which the cycle changes every day. We had a 7.5-minute cycle just a couple of days ago, moving up towards about a 15 to 20-minute cycle, which is average for this time of the year. And so it's just a matter of time before the next group of animals comes out of the bush and comes down to drink. The exciting thing is that this area, animals react to rainfall. They actually follow around rain patterns. And there's enough wilderness out here. I mean, it is huge that animals can move to where it's raining and obviously make the most of the weather patterns in different areas. They don't see countries, borders as I don't see borders, political borders like we do, and so we'll freely move between Kenya and Tanzania quite easily. But we only got a couple of minutes left of the show, and it won't help us looking at volcanic rock and bush. So, let's rejoice in the fact that we've got other cameras, and let's go to Tau Lodge back in South Africa to see what we've got around there. Aha. Old faithful at the moment. Africam Tau Lodge's camera over the last couple of days has just been a endless source of variety for us. When we were last year at Tau Lodge, we were looking at red hartebeest and a crocodile, and now we're busy watching a warthog feeding on some grass or sedges growing on the water's edge. Not the most appealing shot, but a shot of an animal nevertheless. And, why not, I suppose. There's certain comedy to it, but anyway, I suppose it just depends on your sense of humor. I can't believe that today's flown quickly. To be honest, this 3 hours that goes by, I don't even look up or want to know what is happening in my environment. It's already 3 hours have gone. It's testimony to how great the show actually is. We've only got 2 minutes left of the show, and so this is the time where I just want to say thank you to everybody for your support. Your eyes on the screen are what counts. Thank you for sending through your comments and your questions. It is absolutely appreciated. The fact that we're not just speaking for hours and hours on end is really great. And thanks to all the without you guys, nothing would be possible. And then, of course, thank you to WildEarth, because WildEarth, you bring us all these shows every single day, and it's just so great. So thank you to everyone who makes the show possible, all the staff sitting in the background making this all work. It's definitely no mean feat. So thank you to everybody. And definitely on a day like today, which is South Africa's Heritage Day, where we're celebrating culture and the differences between people, I definitely am one that's going to be rejoicing that very soon. And, just say thank you to all the different things that we've seen today. So, Alice, you say thank you back to me. I really appreciate that. Thank you back, Alice. It's great to hear from you, and my pleasure. Yeah, wherever you are today, hopefully you are safe and sound, surrounded by your loved ones. And if not, well, at least you have WildEarth. All right, I'm going to leave you with the sounds of the bush. My endless droning is going to stop now. So we'll see you tomorrow. All the best wherever you are. Stay safe and ciao.